So the European Central Bank, okay, will be announcing their monetary policy monetary policy decision tomorrow at 19:45 GMT plus 8. Okay, so recently, okay, or rather should I say last Tuesday, okay, we have heard from several ECB members, okay, specifically the hawks. Hawks meaning, central bank members that tend to be more hawkish, okay, whereas dove refers to the members that tend to be more dovish, okay. So last Tuesday, we heard from several central bank hawks, okay, ECB hawks, specifically Robert Hausman and Klaas Knot. Not important if you know or don't know them, okay. So they actually said that, the central bank should actually start tapering the quantitative easing, all right. Why is that the case? Because Eurozone economy has been recovering broadly as expected, okay. That's one thing. Second thing, inflation outlook has actually improved, okay. As you guys know, inflation has been rising quite high, okay, to quite a high level for the past 2 or 3 months, okay. I think it was August 31st that they actually announced, well, actually data was released that the annual inflation actually hit a 10-year high of 3%, okay, way above the ECB's target of 2%, all right. So, with all these hawkish comments made by the hawks, should we actually be expecting a quantitative easing tapering coming from the ECB this Thursday? Personally, okay, my view, unlikely going to be the case, right? First thing first. First reason, Delta variant is still an issue, okay? So, okay, before I proceed, just to let you guys know, for the ECB quantitative easing, there are actually 2 parts to it. The first part is the APP, Assets Purchase Program, which has already been, ongoing for God knows how long, all right? It was actually way before the COVID, the pandemic, when the pandemic hits, okay? So the first QE is the APP. Second part of the QE is the PEPP, Pandemic Emergency Purchase Program. As the name suggests, it's actually, a QE taken in place to, in response to the whole pandemic, all right? So, PEPP is unlikely, okay, going to be tapered at the moment, right? With the whole rising of Delta cases and things like that in the Eurozone, I think at the moment, around 60% of the Eurozone population has already been fully vaccinated, okay? But still, we have seen that somehow, for some reason, okay, Delta variant cases has been increasing regardless of whether, one has been vaccinated or not, right? So, yeah, the PEPP is unlikely going to be tapered, all right? And the PEPP is actually scheduled to last until next March. That means March 2022, okay? I think the total amount of bonds to be purchased under the PEPP program is around 895 billion euro, okay? As of now, I think during the last meeting, I think they said something like around 850 billion euros have been purchased already, okay? Equivalent of bonds have been purchased. So likely that, it's going to last at least through 2021. And, there may be a tapering probably end of this year or something on the PPP, okay? But as of September, PPP is unlikely going to be tapered. That's PPP. Now, what about the APP, Assets Purchase Program? Well, some actually says that, some market analysts actually felt that, APP may be tapered soon, if, maybe this month or maybe end of this year, okay? Personally, I feel that for September, it's unlikely going to be the case, all right? Yes, no doubt inflation has been rising, okay? Inflation has been rising for the past few months. Okay, let me just show you the data for the annual inflation data for ECB, for the Eurozone, okay? So as you can see that the most recent month over here, okay, you can see that, there's a sharp rise to the 3% mark, okay, which is very good, right? But the central bank is currently adopting a 2% target, okay, which is at this level where the mouse cursor is. So as you can see that, the 2% mark has actually been hit only in June 17 release. So it's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, some 4 or 5 or 6 months ago. So it was just a recent event, okay, that inflation has starting to rise and hit the central bank's target, 2% target. So it is likely that the central bank, okay, will reiterate specifically, okay, the president, Christine Lagarde, reiterate that, excuse me, recent inflation is likely going to be transitory, okay? It's likely going to be temporary due to transitory factors, okay? Like rise in oil prices, rise in, used cars and trucks, vehicles and things like that, right? So the central bank will want to see more sustained inflation, okay, at a high level, before, considering a QE tapering to the APP, Asset Purchase Program, right? So it's, the ECB is actually very similar to the Federal Reserve, right? A few months ago when the Federal Reserve inflation start spiking up, market analysts comes out and say that we may be expecting QE tapering soon from the central bank, from the Federal Reserve, okay? But the Federal Reserve came out, Powell specifically say that all these are just transitory and things like that. We will want inflation. We want to see evidence of persistent inflation, okay, before we would consider talking about QE tapering, right? So this will likely be the case for the European Central Bank, okay? Now, that's the second point, waiting for inflation to be more sustainable, okay, before making a decision. The third point is this time around, okay, the quarterly economic projection materials will be released by the ECB, okay? So the central bank will probably want to wait for, at least one, which is this time around, or twice, or two economic projection materials to be released before, to have a clearer picture of how economic recovery in the Eurozone is going on, right? So speaking about economic projections, okay, during the previous release back in June, the central bank actually revised their economic growth projection upwards, okay, for this year. Inflation projection has also been revised upwards for this year, okay, but for 2022 and 2023 onwards, it's sort of like toned down, still way below the central bank's target of 2%. So with all these three points that I've given, it is unlikely, okay, that the central bank is going to carry out any tapering action or make any announcement on potential QE tapering, be it APP or the PEPP, okay? So roughly when can we expect, right? So like what Jean has mentioned yesterday, okay, I actually share the same view as him. Tapering announcement is likely going to take place only in December, when, like I said, like when the ECB has a clearer picture on the economic recovery. That's one. Second thing, hopefully Delta variant cases will drop significantly by then, okay? Third point, what's the third point? Third point, inflation has to be sustainable, has to be sustained at a high level, such that, when the transitory factors has resolved, okay, inflation will fall back to around the 2% target, which is the central bank's target, okay? So with that, unlikely the central bank is going to do anything this time around in September, okay? But take note that there will be a press conference at 20:30 GMT +8, okay? Normally, based on previous central banks, ECB's policy announcement during the 1945 interest rate monetary policy statement release, there's unlikely going to be much movements, okay, unless there's a significant change in forward guidance like the previous release. But this time around, unlikely going to be the case, okay? So if you guys are trading the ECB monetary policy decision, just take note of this at 1945, okay? However, if you want to trade, if you want to scalp, then look for opportunities, okay? Then try to do it at the 2030 time when the press conference is being released, because who knows what Lagarde will be saying, right? She may actually drop a hint or two on QE tapering and things like that. Now, that will actually, cause, I would say, movements in the euro currency, okay? So with that, I will update you guys on what goes down, for the ECB meeting on Friday.